trying to rotate. Hold on. Alt P. Whoa. No. P. By loose parts. Cool. Shoot. I don't think that helped very much. Cursor to selected. Origins to. Darn. Okay, cursor to selected. Origins to 3D cursor. Is there an easier way to do this? That's not helpful. Well, crap. Alright, I guess what I'm gonna do for now is just, whoa. Okay, hold on. Better than nothing. I think what I'm going to do for now is just line them up. Make sure that they touch. I think that's all I can really, I mean, it's not all I can really do, but I feel like it'll help. So I don't know any other easier, faster ways of doing this. It's kind of sad because I'm gonna have to do this again for 1 or 2 more rows. But I know better than to join them all. So that's good. I already made that mistake once. Whoops. Let me quickly let me put on some news.
Programming supported by the Twin Cities
really
Antiquarian and Rare Book Fair. Antiquarian, fine, and rare books from 50 dealers, plus first editions, fine bindings, vintage books, maps, and more. June 24th and 25th at the State Fairgrounds. TwinCitiesBookFair.com.
As soon as she heard that, Missy whipped her head around.
And like hitting with a Big Mac right in the middle of Nashville on I-24.
A Big Mac.
Yes, I did.
It was only funny for a little while.
A couple days later,
Somebody told on me.
he got arrested
He stayed in jail for about 2 years.
and then escaped. I don't know how exactly.
But before long, he stole again.
And ended up back in jail again.
And
And Missy,
I stayed by his side.
Again.
she was determined. He'd come home from these escapes saying,
I just hated being locked up.
Great
Being
question.
away from you
I
guys.
didn't want to be away from my kids, and I didn't want to be away from Missy.
Each time he got locked up, Missy would write him letters.
I would send him money because I worked the whole time I was pregnant with my 13-year-old.
What kind of work were you doing?
Worked on a sanding line, sanded rocking chairs.
Chris, meanwhile, was thinking about his next escape.
And when he came charging through the front door,
Thinking of roadkill.
telling Missy that again he had escaped
I stayed with him.
again. But this time,
I started asking for check stubs on a weekly basis and adding hours up that he'd been gone from time he left the house, which I would knock down right in time there in front.
You were keeping tabs on him.
Yes, I was.
she went so far as to take $5,000 out of the bank account that they shared, buy a trailer for them to live in, one that wouldn't move.
You know, I was trying more or less to make him do right.
And it seemed like it was working.
But then one night,
Chris came in after work and sat down in the living room with Missy and their daughter to watch some TV.
Next thing we know, we heard a loud beating at the door. Well, you know, I jump up and he jumps up, and next thing I know, he was, you know, moving that kitchen table and sliding it out. Next thing I know, he raises the rug up off the floor and he jumps down in there and he says, "Cover it back up." So I cover it back up, put the table back, and answered the door. And they came in and they walked all around the house. And they left.
So you bought this house to keep him still, and he'd cut a trap door in it.
Yep. He was stayed up on those trailer the whole time. They were walking over top of him.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess it was more or less, I was young, I knowed, but I was also in denial.
But eventually something happened that kind of forced her to admit just how bad things had gotten with Chris.
Day before Halloween, Danielle and her daddy had went down to Walmart and she had picked out a little witch outfit. But she was old enough, and then, you know, she was 4. You know, trick-or-treating for a 4-year-old, that was a big thing.
the next morning, it's Halloween.
Her daddy looked at her and said, "Well, baby, I'm going to work. I'll see you this afternoon. You know, when we get home, we'll get your outfit on you and we'll go trick-or-treating up in Nashville." And that afternoon, Danielle was sitting on the back step, and she was just sitting there in a white t-shirt. And I asked her, I said, "Danielle, what are you doing?" "I'm waiting on my daddy to get home, Mama. He said we're going to go to Nashville and we're going to go trick-or-treating." I said, "Okay, he'll be back in a little bit." And she sat there and she sat there. And he never came home that night.
You, I don't really hear, I don't hear a lot of bitterness from you.
No.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Why?
What, as far as me being upset with Chris or hating Chris?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what you're asking me?
Yes, ma'am.
How could you not forgive Chris? 18 years. That's how long I've known that boy. And I have seen firsthand where he lived, how he lived. I'm a fighter. I go to church. My kids go to church. I learn to forgive people. And Chris has had a hard life. He He needs help. Help that I can't give him.
You thought for a while that you could give him that help.
Yes, I did.
I should have been there for my kids.
Yeah.
It take a lifetime of making this up.
Yeah.
You know, making up what I've done.
So what do you make of this story, Pat?
Well, somewhere along the way, for Ben and I, this story really became about the simple question: can a person like Chris, grew up the way he
Oops.
did? Can a person like that change? Or do you just never escape a childhood like that?
People live with how they grew up.
You ask Missy, she says,
Have 2 kids and a wife that he loves. If we can't stop him, I don't know what can.
but when we asked Chris, he said,
It's in my mind it's going to change, and I'm not only going to change, I'm working to change.
Really?
of course he has said that before.
Truthfully?
What's different this time? What?
You know, I'm doing classes I don't have to take. I'm taking every one of them. I'm taking I'm taking how to be a better daddy. I'm taking everything. As a matter of fact, when I come off a pro this month, I'm going to ask them, can I go ahead and complete another 9-month program?
Wait, is he saying he's going to ask them to keep him in jail?
Yeah,
After 20 years of running, he's asking the parole board not to let him go.
which made me think, I don't know, maybe.
And Ben, what do you think?
I don't think there's any way that Chris changes. I think he's, unfortunately doomed to stay in this cycle. Which sucks, I'm sort of ashamed that I have that opinion.
Why? I mean, why do you think you feel that way?
I mean, my dad was pretty similar to Chris in many ways.
Really?
My father abandoned me when I was a young boy, and I got reacquainted with him when I was a teenager. At that point, he was a very sad alcoholic.
Oh, jeez.
Big mistakes, and I played high school football. And
Is there an easier way to put that cursor
my
there?
senior year, they put out this highlight tape. And so I took that highlight tape to his trailer in Slick, Oklahoma, and after shooting a lot of tequila, we sat down on the couch together, and I put the tape in, and we were watching me play football. And not long into it, my dad starts sobbing, just bawling, tears running down his face. I look over at him, and he says, I wish I could have been there. And I wanted nothing more in that moment and today than to ask him, why weren't you? And I think in some way I get that opportunity in this job to ask my dad that question.
Ben says
This is
Ben
actually kind of
never
nice.
answered that question. And after that day where they watched that football tape, nothing changed. Ben got older, graduated from college, got married, had kids, and his dad never showed up for any of it. So he says when he's talking to a guy like Chris,
In some ways, I'm sitting across the table from my own father.
which doesn't give him a lot of hope.
The only ounce of encouragement that I have, honestly, is if we find out that Chris has indeed, when given the chance to get out of jail, said, no thank you, maybe that gives me an ounce of hope.
And a couple weeks ago, Ben got a letter from Chris. Can you just, can you read it for me?
Yeah. Dear Mr. Montgomery, thank you for your letter. I'm doing well. I went up for parole, and yes, I did ask them to let me go through the program. The final decision was to parole me upon completion of the program. I will complete it on October 4th, 2012.
So he's staying.
Well, I better get this in the mail. Thank you again for writing. I hope to hear from you again. Your friend, Christopher Daniel Gay.
of this story, there's been some news from Chris, and unfortunately it's not good news. He is back in jail, serving 19 months for a parole violation, and after that, he'll start a new 3-year sentence. Because in November of 2013, Little Houdini led police on a high-speed chase where at one point he pulled out a gun and pointed it at his head. The next month, in the Cheatham County Jail, police say he tried to overdose on antidepressants. Maybe it was another escape attempt. I mean, he has escaped that way before. But either way, he was taken to the hospital and then brought back to jail, where at least for now he will stay.
Thanks to our producer, Pat Walters.
And to Ben Montgomery, his story on Christopher Daniel Gay is in the Tampa Bay Times, which you can find online. And we've got a link to it from our website, radiolab.org.
We will return to Escape in just a moment, but first...
Is this Superman?
Hi there, this is
Oh.
Ben Montgomery. Radio Lab is supported in part by the Alfred P. Sloan
It sounded like they were trying to do a
Foundation.
Superman,
Understanding of science and
like one of those old
technology
comic book
More
type.
information about Sloan at www.sloan.org.
Hi, I'm Wilson Davis from Narberth, Pennsylvania.
What are they called? Like radio
Lab, supported by the Jackson
shows.
Laboratory, nonprofit biomedical research institute, helping to lead the search for cures to diseases such as cancer, diabetes, and Alzheimer's that are rooted in our DNA. Learn
Definitely
more at
saving this crap.
jaax.org/genomics.
This is Marta calling from London. Radiolab is supported by the George Lucas Educational Foundation, creator of Edutopia, dedicated to increasing the knowledge, sharing, and adoption of what works in K through 12 education. Learn more at edutopia.org.
Programming supported by Visit Winona, home of the Great River Shakespeare Festival, June 22nd to July 31st. This year performing Julius Caesar, As You Like It, and the musical Giorama. Information and schedule online at visitwinona.com.
Sir Ian McKellen will work with almost any co-star. Almost.
Like almost bees.
It's in his contract. I'm Rico. And I'm Brendan. Join us and Sir Ian and Cindy Crawford this week on the Dinner Party Download. Today at 3 on NPR News. This is Minnesota Public Radio News. Good afternoon. It's 2:26. You're listening to Radio Lab. More of the show coming up. Some scattered showers of thunderstorm activity in parts of Minnesota this afternoon. A lot of that widely scattered, though, looking at the radar. A lot of it has pushed into Wisconsin, so that's the good news. And we'll see some clearing up across much of the state tonight. For Sunday tomorrow, that's the nice day this weekend. Mostly sunny, highs ranging from the low 70s tomorrow to low 80s.
Hey, I'm Janet. I'm Ron.
I'm Robert Krulwich.
This is Radio Lab, and today
Oh, we only have a few more.
talking about escape.
Stories about people being trapped and getting out, getting free.
And in our last segment, we met a guy for whom, well, the escape itself became a trap.
But now, we're going to take our escape motif to a much bigger scale.
Yeah.
And we're calling this...
Seeing if this was the best way to go.
That's perfect.
You can hear me?
I can hear you beautifully. Can you hear me? I actually didn't bring my glasses, so I'm assuming.
If you're a Radio Lab listener from way back, you might recognize that voice. That's Android.
Hi.
One of the first stories we did, actually, I interviewed her about working on the famous golden record.
That's cool.
Sure.
So the idea at the time was to put this record on the Voyager capsule, send it into space, and on the record would be all of these sounds that represented, us.
Kiss. A mother's first words to her newborn baby.
Oh, come on now.
Awesome. Ah,
In any case, Anne was the one who was in charge of choosing all the sounds to put onto that record. She and Carl Sagan worked together on that project. And here's the thing. We stopped our story as the rockets took off, but obviously that was just the beginning of the story. And the Voyager capsules right now are about to make a kind of escape that Newton could have only dreamed of.
Okay.
And our producer Lou Levy has been
Sorry, I'm just turning my headphones up way too loud.
has been following the story.
Uh,
Yeah, you just turn.
yeah.
Okay, so to pick it up where we left.
Okay, so, like, in the point of the mission wasn't really to deliver this record, it was to go out and look at all the planets in the outer solar system. So, starting in 1977, these two little spaceships
two spacecraft, Voyager 1 and 2.
went racing away from Earth, snapping pictures.
And so every time Voyager would reach another planet, all of the Voyager people would get together, go
remember as a child seeing Life magazine. You know, I was 7 when Voyager was launched, so.
This is Merav.
Merav, professor at Boston University.
As a grown-up, she became part of the Voyager team.
All the pictures that, you know, as a kid, you look at the books and to see how Neptune looked, how Jupiter looked.
You know, just a complete revelation.
Saturn.
The image of Saturn.
Technicolor.
Like pink and reddish, turquoise color.
Yellow.
And those rings.
Just spectacular.
It all came from Voyager. We had no idea how they looked like before Voyager.
Neptune was the last big cool planet, and it was the last thing they were supposed to photograph.
After that, the cameras were going to be shut off to save energy. But Carl Sagan convinced them to turn Voyager back to Earth and take a final picture.
So, on Valentine's Day, 1990, one of the ships slowly rotated so it was facing back to Earth. And it snapped a picture.
One last picture.
It's mostly empty. It's pretty dark. You can see sort of streaks of light coming from the sun, and then you honestly wouldn't notice it if it wasn't pointed out to you, but down in one corner,
kind of suspended in a sunbeam,
there is a very small dot, blue,
a pale blue dot. That was us.
In Carl Sagan's words,
everyone you ever knew, everyone you ever loved, every superstar, every corrupt politician.
I will be right back. I'll start working when like 10, 20 minutes.